This is CBC Saturday News.
Good evening, I'm Marivelle Tarouk. Premier Doug Ford marched in York Region's Pride Parade this afternoon alongside officers from the local police service. This comes after he was criticized earlier this month when he said he would not be participating in the Toronto Pride Parade unless uniformed police officers were allowed to march there. Kelda Yoon was at today's parade and she joins us live in Newmarket tonight. So Kelda, Ford's presence a surprise to many.
Marivelle, that's right. A big surprise to many. Now, I'm standing along the parade route on Main Street. I spoke to some participants right here before the parade began, and they said they were stunned that Ford would be participating. There had been no indication that he would be here until moments before the parade began. Even organizers told me that they had no idea. Ford had also previously not attended any Toronto Pride events either as the Premier or City Councillor. Ford was joined by Attorney General Caroline Mulroney, Health Minister Christine Elliott, and MPP Stephen Lecce at today's parade. The Premier received a mostly warm welcome. Now, many people lined along the street were eager to take photos of him as he passed. Some even applauded and cheered. Ford marched alongside uniformed York Regional Police officers the entire way. Uniformed officers were first banned from the Toronto Pride Parade back in 2017, and that was a year after Black Lives Matter activists protested their participation due to concerns over racial profiling. Now, at today's parade, Ford reiterated that he believed this kind of event should be inclusive and that while he supports the Toronto Pride Parade, he won't be marching in it because of that ban.
I think both parades are great. I chose this one. The police are marching in. That's it, but I wish everyone all the best in the other Pride Parade. We funded it to a tune of $375,000. I think it's going to be an incredible event. I encourage everyone to come and have a good time.
While Ford seemed to receive a mostly warm welcome from those at the parade today, there were some that were angered by his participation. In fact, shortly after the parade began, a group of participants from the local labor union, CUPE Local 905, stalled the parade for a little bit by blocking his path.
I'm extremely disappointed. I'm actually furious, as I think are a lot of people at this parade, that these folks have shown up here after all the cuts that they've implemented to public services.
He's taking away funding for core programs within the public community, supporting the LGBTQ youth. So it's very clear that, you know, this political government and their agenda is not for the people, and it's not for the LGBTQ plus community.
For him to be here saying that he's supporting the LGBTQ2 plus community, it's complete hypocrite.
While Ford said he won't be participating in the Toronto Pride Parade on June 23rd, he said he would be participating in other Pride events this month. However, when he was asked today, he did not specify exactly what those events would be. I'll send it back to you, Marivelle.
All right, Kelda, thanks for this. Well, since making history by winning the NBA championship in Oakland, the Toronto Raptors have been celebrating in Las Vegas. They will be home soon, in time for a victory parade. Their absence, though, has not curbed the city's enthusiasm. As Natalie Nanowski tells us, excitement over the team's victory continues to sweep through Toronto.
From popping bottles of champagne in the locker room to on stage in Vegas with Champagne Poppy by their side, the Raptors are relishing the moment. And obviously, so is Drake. He flew down from Toronto to embrace that win. Back in Canada, Raptors gear is flying off the shelves. Sales have beat the previous NBA record set in 2016.
Maybe I should just buy 365 shirts so I have one for the whole year because I don't want to take it off.
And Toronto is making sure to mark this moment in history. A trophy has been added to the giant mural of the team on Queen Street. And inside the store, the victory is immortalized. On street corners, stickers of the Raptors superfan Nav Bhatia are popping up. And of course, there's an homage to Kawhi Leonard, dubbed the real king of the North.
One, it's not often that you see street art pieces that feature people of color. For us, it's our own hard work and effort and energy put in, our own sweat and tears, and we feel like we're contributing to the spirit of the city.
The newest mural is of Drake. It's on a tattoo shop. It references the win and Drake's cheeky move of wearing Del Curry's Raptors jersey from 2000. His son, Steph Curry, is one of the Warriors' star players.
When Drake came out with this jersey, it was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was maybe the most epic troll in sports history. So yeah, I thought I would immortalize that on the wall and just create almost like a little bit of a meme.
He worked on it for 3 nights and put the finishing touches on right after the final buzzer.
This city is on fire right now, and we deserve all of the accolades.
And of course, you can't forget to thank the coach. This shrine is dedicated to Nick Nurse, so fans can stop by and say a little prayer that the team stays together. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is a live look at Nathan Phillips Square right now. Preparations underway for the Toronto Raptors victory parade on Monday. The team will travel in open-air double-decker buses, flaunting their shiny new Larry O'Brien trophy. Now that parade starts at 10 a.m. We'll run along Lake Shore, starting at the Prince's Gates, then north on York Street to University Avenue, ending at Nathan Phillips Square for a party that starts at 12:30. And we will have special live coverage of all the celebrations right here on CBC Television. That's hosted by Dwight Drummond and Adrian Arsenault. That starts Monday at 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can also tune into our radio special hosted by Matt Galloway at noon on CBC Radio 1. Celebrations on the street today in Ottawa for the annual Caravibe Festival. This afternoon, the Grand Street Parade took over the heart of downtown Ottawa.
Amount of people that come together to celebrate the music, the people, the movement, the arts, our just our culture. Yes. We celebrate loudly and proudly. Yes, we do.
The festival celebrates Caribbean culture, and clearly the rain did not get in the way of the party. But this year, recent flooding did put a damper on some of the plans, closing down the road leading to Petrie Island, which usually hosts a big beach party for festival goers.
Petrie Island is just such a gem in our community. It's not the same, but it hasn't dampened the spirits. Like, people will still go out and party. I mean, especially this week with the celebration of the Raptors. I mean, people are talking about that, and it's going to be a party, whatever way you look at it.
The party did move to 255 Centrum Boulevard in the heart of Orleans. And this is the festival's 20th year. So, Daksha, there's rain there, and there was a little bit spitting in Toronto through the afternoon. How's it looking for the rest of our weekend?
Well, Maribel, as we head into the evening hours, you'll notice in the icon for Toronto, yeah, there's still the chance for some very light showers to stick around into the evening hours. 17 degrees, that is actually below seasonal. Those are the temperatures we've been seeing as of late. Seasonal for the city of Toronto for this time of year is 24 degrees, so a bit of perspective there. Now, in terms of the activity that we've seen this weekend, we've got this trough over northern Quebec, cold air aloft, and that's helping funnel in some of the instability across the GTA in the form of those showers. Okay, what's Father's Day going to bring? That's what you're wondering. For Sunday, actually, this cold front, that's where we're seeing the showers is right ahead of it. And you'll notice as we head into Sunday, things actually drying out quite nicely. So if you do have plans, you'll probably catch some cloud cover there, but generally dry conditions is what you can expect. So maybe you can get outside and enjoy it. Although our daytime high Sunday right now looking to reach 19 degrees. So again, still seasonably cool, but quite comfortable if you ask me. Okay, in terms of winds, it was a blustery Saturday. We're still seeing those winds, especially along the north shore of Lake Ontario, but into Sunday, things are going to calm down quite nicely. So I hope many are able to get outside and enjoy.
Yeah, people want a barbecue, I think, tomorrow. Thanks, Daksha.
You're welcome.
Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown is calling the state of healthcare in his city a crisis. He says while the city is growing quickly, it hasn't received any new healthcare funding from the province. Brown says the norm is patients getting treated in hallways or waiting days to be admitted. That's why the city launched a campaign today demanding more funding from the provincial government. Angelina King has the details.
Lori Heron is signing a petition with the hopes others don't have a hospital experience like she did. Heron says she had to sleep in a hallway overnight when she had kidney stones.
It was very painful. It's very excruciating. I had to wait about 6 hours before I was attended to. And when they did take me in, there was no stretcher, gurney room, any place to put me.
It's stories like Heron's that spurred the city of Brampton to take action. Mayor Patrick Brown launched the Fair Deal for Brampton campaign today, demanding more provincial funding, including money to build a third hospital. He didn't specify how much the city is asking for.
So Brampton is ground zero when it comes to the negligence of healthcare funding. We have the busiest emerge in the country. We have some patients who have spent days bleeding on a stretcher in our hallways, and it's getting worse.
The city says Peel Memorial Centre has funding for 10,000 patients a year, but says it sees more than 75,000, and says it has 55% fewer available beds than the provincial average.
We are the second fastest growing city in Canada, but then after we don't have those investments to go along to support that population growth.
Some Brampton residents say they travel outside of the city for quicker health care.
My brother has injured himself and he did not even want to go to Brampton Civic. We ended up going to Guelph, which is sad, and we shouldn't have it like that.
In a statement, the health ministry says it's making significant investments in Brampton's healthcare system, including providing $1.5 million from the Hospital Infrastructure Renewal Fund. It says, in part, by relentlessly focusing on patient experience and on better connected care, we will reduce wait times and end hallway healthcare. Brown says the city and healthcare workers will be bringing the petition here to Queen's Park in the fall. They hope to get around 100,000 signatures before making their official pitch to the provincial government. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Provincial NDP leader Andrea Horwath won a resounding show of support from party members today at a convention in Hamilton.
Let's continue to be the heart of the resistance and the party of hope. Thank you very much, everyone.
Every 2 years, NDP members are asked if they want to hold a leadership contest or stick with the current leader. 84% of those who voted today say they want Horwath to lead the party into the next election. She led the party to its largest seat count since 1990. The federal government is launching 2 pilot programs to help migrant care workers. Immigration Minister Ahmed Hussein outlined the new initiatives for those seeking permanent residency today.
For the first time, we'll be moving ahead to make sure that work permits for caregivers are not tied to the employer, but are tied to the occupation. In order to prevent this problem in the future, caregivers moving forward will be able to bring their family members with them.
The home child care provider and home support worker pilots will start taking applications this Tuesday. Hussein says these programs will make it easier for migrant workers and their families to obtain work permits and live in Canada. But caregivers say there is still a long road ahead.
It's a relief for us knowing that there's still a pathway for the caregivers, but we're sad to say that they cannot help us about what we are also asking to eliminate or at least reduce the benchmark for the English qualifications.
Many workers say the program's English language testing is too difficult and presents an unnecessary obstacle to permanent residence. The escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran have many in the region worried. Washington is blaming Tehran for attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. The latest on that after the break. Hong Kong has suspended its controversial extradition bill following mass public protests. But that doesn't mean an end to the unrest. Activists want the legislation scrapped and the territory's chief executive gone. Sasha Petrusik has more from Hong Kong.
The protests hounded government lawmakers even as they met to plan their retreat. A stunning climb down for Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, who until yesterday was vowing to push through her unpopular law in a matter of days. No longer.
That the government has decided to suspend the legislative amendment exercise.
The proposed law that would allow anyone here to be extradited to mainland China to face trial for alleged crimes is on the shelf indefinitely. Over the past week, even as 1 million people marched in opposition, Lam and her Chinese-backed government remained defiant, dismissing criticism and insisting on the need to prevent Hong Kong from becoming a haven for fugitives. When police responded to street protests with a force that shocked Hong Kong, Lam sided with the officers, calling the demonstrators spoiled children. But the pressure to reconsider was mounting from business groups, unions, churches, and teachers, all fearing that the law would allow China's authoritarian system to reach into more democratic Hong Kong. And the protests kept coming.
How could I restore as fast as possible the calm in society? And how could I avoid any more law enforcement officers and ordinary citizens being injured?
The protesters aren't satisfied. They vow to be back out tomorrow for another march.
She refused to withdraw the extradition bill. Instead, she just postponed it.
Opposition legislators want more.
So we are angry, and we expect the government to respond to us positively, that is, to withdraw the bill for once and for all.
Throughout this, many people feared Hong Kong risks becoming just another Chinese city, its rights and democratic traditions wiped away by Beijing. But it's clearly still different. There's no way any other part of China would back down to this kind of public pressure or even tolerate it. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Hong Kong.
Officials in Sudan say deposed President Omar al-Bashir will soon stand trial on corruption charges. Sudan's chief prosecutor says the process will begin in a week. He also says 41 others from the former administration are being investigated. And he addressed the deadly breakup of a protest camp this month, saying the current ruling council had not been consulted on the decision to use violence. Tensions between the U.S. and Iran are continuing to grow at an alarming rate. Washington is accusing Tehran of attacking 2 oil tankers that sailed through in the Gulf of Oman this week, something Iran's leaders flatly deny. But with much of the world's oil routes going through the region, fears are the dispute could spin out of control. Stephen D'Souza has more.
It's probably got essentially Iran written all over it.
To hear Donald Trump on Fox News describe it, there's no doubt Iran was responsible for attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman this week.
Well, Iran did do it, and you know they did it because you saw the boat.
This is that boat, shown in footage released by the U.S. military. It claims to show Iran's Revolutionary Guard removing an unexploded mine from the side of one of the tankers. This week's attacks only add to the rising tension in the region. Since withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, the U.S. has applied a strategy of maximum pressure, using harsh economic sanctions to force Iran back to the table.
I think Trump, more likely than not, would like to see some form of a negotiation in which he can claim that he got a better deal than the Obama administration did.
But with hawks like National Security Advisor John Bolton and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on staff, analysts worry about the other motives for U.S. accusations against Iran.
U.S. government has a very bad track record when it comes to coming out with these assessments. They oftentimes have turned out to be lies, but it's particularly concerning when someone like John Bolton is in the White House.
But others argue that the attack is part of Iran's strategy of escalation.
They want to raise the cost to the Trump administration for continuing its economic sanctions policy against Tehran. In so doing, Tehran is willing to escalate a bit more and is willing to actually inflict costs on U.S. interests, U.S. allies.
Could this lead to a military conflict? Analysts say that's something neither side wants.
The question is, does that create any room for negotiations, or does that incentivize one side to swerve before the other because they're more eager to avoid conflict?
The sanctions are on.
He expects more attacks, both naval and verbal, as the world waits to see who blinks first. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
Although it's a little bit testy right now, as you would expect.
Here's a live look at the Toronto skyline tonight. Overcast and gray, around 17 degrees right now. Daksha will be back with our long-range forecast after the break. We've told you about pop-up art installations, pop-up markets, and stores. But today at Brampton City Hall, there was a series of pop-up weddings. The city offered free, non-religious civil marriage ceremonies today alongside their farmers market. And a few couples took them up on the offer.
Virtue of the powers vested in me by the Marriage Act and the Province of Ontario, do hereby pronounce you, Deepti and Rashikar, to be married. I wish you long life, happiness, and prosperity. You are now married.
We thought it was a great opportunity. It actually allows us to be a little bit of history with the town, because it's the first time they've ever done anything like this, and it kind of simplified things for the way that we were organizing a wedding.
And what was it like for you as a bride?
Oh, it's lovely. I love to see this. I love the people, the farmers market. Yes, this is what I love. It's a beautiful day. I'm so happy. And you know what? First pop-up, Raptures, we did good.
Yeah.
We did good.
They sure did good. And it looks like maybe the weather held off for those outdoor wedding ceremonies,
That's
Daksha.
right. I mean, the good thing about the showers we saw on Saturday, Maribel, was that they were quite spotty, scattered in nature. That wasn't the case for those in the National Capital Region, central, eastern Ontario. But you'll notice that as we head into the nighttime hours, into Sunday as well, this cold front continues to drift to the east, to the south as well. And generally, we're actually shaping up for a nice, dry Father's Day. I can't promise that it won't be overcast, that you might see some cloud cover there. That's certainly not out of the question, but at least for the most part, we are expecting things to be dry. Take a look at this, 19 degrees on Sunday afternoon. And if you're maybe traveling on Sunday somewhere else in the country, you'll see that our forecast actually fares quite nicely, maybe aside from Calgary, 22 and sunny, beautiful conditions ahead for Calgary. Okay, so the Raptors parade, Monday. Everyone wants to know, what are we expecting? Well, the Raptors gods have graced us. We are actually expecting some nicer conditions, as I mentioned, similar to Sunday, so a mix of sun and cloud, but dry. And enjoy that if you can, because into the coming days for this upcoming work week, we're once again looking at the chance for some showers. Those unsettled conditions are going to persist Tuesday and into Thursday as well. But Monday afternoon, you'll notice here 19 degrees, feeling a little bit more like 20 with some sunshine in the forecast. And here's your 7-day forecast. So once again, Tuesday, although temperatures are a touch warmer, we are expecting showers once again into Thursday, Friday as well. But you will notice that trend veering closer to those summer-like temperatures in terms of getting closer to the seasonal mark, which I mentioned earlier is around 24 degrees for the city of Toronto for this time of year. I do just want to show you the moisture that's available in the atmosphere so you can see that by midweek we'll be seeing another shot of showers.
All right, no rain on Monday. That's great. Thanks, Daksha.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, you got it. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great night, everyone.